Hello, all you leaders of the Empire out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast.
Yeah.
My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What's up?
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 7, Episode 22, Tacking into the Wind.
Yep.
Alternate title, A Tale of Two Idiots.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like there's more than two people who could fall into that heading here. I'm just saying.
Alternate title, Gowron but not forgotten.
That's good.
Gosh, should have led with that one.
No, it's actually extra funny because there's a note where I guess I'll just do it now because
Okay.
it fits so well with that. But so it says that most Robert O'Reilly, who plays Gowron, most of his last day of filming was Gowron on the ground being dead. And so
Nice.
at the end of the day, when filming wrapped, O'Reilly's like, Michael Dorn, come and help me get up, because apparently actors cannot get themselves up off the ground in full Klingon wardrobe, which that seemed bad for warriors, but whatever. And but Michael Dorn had already left.
Aww.
And so O'Reilly's like, boy, once they kill you off, they forget all about you.
Nice. I mean, I think we have to assume that the Klingons are stronger than,
Oh, fair, yeah.
Actual humans or whatever. I don't know. But this episode originally aired May 12th, 1999. It was written by Ronald D. Moore and directed by Mike Vehar. He's just sticking with the Mike thing this whole season.
Yeah, sure, why not?
And Sarah Lofton is not in the episode. And I don't think I saw Quark either.
No, Sirach Lofton not in the episode. Also, Armin Shimmerman, he was busy. Let's see, it says, Shimmerman himself does not appear in this episode or the next, spoiler.
Oh.
He was shooting the final episodes of the third season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, in which his character, Principal Snyder, had an important role.
Ah, okay. So there's a reason he's not here.
Yeah, his wife does appear, making another guest appearance on the show, this time as Luarin, the Vorta.
Oh. So that was Armin Shimmerman's wife?
Yep, Kitty Swank.
The Vorta lady?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. But we will be discussing spoilers up through this episode. Like we already discussed, Gowron dies, so...
Yeah, if you didn't know that yet, you tuned in to the wrong episode, sorry.
But not after this episode. Not the next 3 episodes or whatever, so...
Except for the one spoiler that Quark is not in the next one.
Oh, yeah. Well, except for that. But other than that, it's safe to watch along with us if this is your first time watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But maybe we will also spoil books or TV shows or movies not related to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We don't care. Yep. We don't have like a huge code against spoiling anything. So
yeah, you see that last season of Gossip Girl? I don't know when that series was. So
much gossip. I can't believe that the girl gossiped.
Apparently that show ended in 2012. Okay. I'm rereading the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, in which one of the characters really loves Gossip Girl and talks about it a lot. So that's why it popped into my head.
Okay. Why are you rereading Dungeon Crawler Carl?
Because they were fun books.
Oh, okay. No other reason?
No, not particularly.
Okay. But first things first, how would you rate the title Tacking into the Wind?
I don't know. This one, I'm trying to remember, like, I guess it could fit several things. I mean, okay, tacking into the wind, there's even a note in here. It's like, this is a sailing term that indicates you are, although it gets real specific in here. Hold on, let me see. It is a nautical reference describing when a ship follows a course against a gale by continually making course corrections.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I don't know that it has to be a gale to be
right.
Wind that you're trying to move against. This is another one of those where I'm like, okay, maybe maybe it fits, maybe it's clever-ish, but I'm just like, that could be any of a million episodes. is tacking into the wind, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's also just such a general term that I wouldn't remember that was an episode of Deep Space Nine. And if you said what it was, I would not remember which episode you were referring to for sure.
Mm.
And I feel like with some major things happening in this episode, like control of the Klingon Empire changing hands, you could have done something like more relevant to the episode easily.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So it's definitely seems like a not very grand title for a kind of monumental thing that happens in the episode. I mean, yeah, tacking into the wind, of course, it's the famous vector example you learn about in school, where you can go up against the wind if you zigzag back and forth into it. But I don't see how that's especially relevant to this episode. And I think, like you said, it's not even very memorable as a Deep Space Nine title, so...
I mean, you could have called it, like, Swimming Upstream, and...
Right.
It would be exactly the same thing.
Yep. I guess tacking into the wind at least implies a little bit of, like, careful maneuvering.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't see how that's relevant to this particular episode.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I feel like it's kind of a failure as an episode title, honestly. So
I don't hate it. I just think it's very just generic, and I feel like as we approach the end of season 7, that has been a problem with a lot of episodes titles we've had here in this last run, where it's just like, wow, like When It Rains,
right?
Strange Bedfellows. Like Strange Bedfellows was maybe a little better because there was like.
Sure.
You had the Gul Dukat Kai Wynn thing going on, but it's still just very generic.
Yeah, I mean, at least Strange Bedfellows. You say that, and I can remember all the examples of Strange Bedfellows that were in that episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, before you said the title of last week's episode, I didn't even remember it, and I don't think I'll remember the title of this episode next week. So
no, and the next episode, and maybe even the one after that, are also just kind of a little bit generic. There are definitely no inter arma inum sealant leges.
Right.
Which I'm like, I remember that title.
Yeah.
It may not be the best title. I don't even remember if I rated it very highly in that episode, but I do remember it.
It's for sure no Who Mourns for Morn.
Yeah, Who Mourns for Morn. Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite. Like, titles that are just on target.
Yep.
And you know exactly what's going on with that title.
Yep.
The Siege of AR-558.
Right.
Yeah, no. I know what happens in that episode for sure.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with a title that just is what the episode is about. But now it's time for a segment I like to call Episode Recap.
Wow. Well, okay.
Clever name, I know.
Yeah.
So a lone Jem'Hadar ship flies up into space from some unknown planet. Our curiosity is piqued. Who's on this ship? Where is it going? The possibilities are endless.
The answers are dead people and nowhere.
Yeah. The ship blows up. And then we pause and rewind, and a hand comes into frame, and it turns out we were watching a video the whole time. This makes this at least the second time we've started with this gimmick this season, and I think maybe the third. Is
it really?
The episode where Sisko proposes to Cassidy also starts with what looks like a scene of a pretty scene somewhere, and then it pulls out and it's just Sisko looking at a picture.
Oh, I thought you meant a ship exploding, and then it turns out that that's not really where we currently are, was the gimmick. Okay, so a more general gimmick of you think it's real, but then it's
right.
Not.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I'm following.
Not a ship blowing up.
You're like, that episode about Cassidy and Sisko getting married started with a ship exploding. Don't you remember?
But yeah, so Kira is reviewing some footage with Damar, Garrick, and Gul Steve at Cardassian Resistance Cave Set HQ. Kira chews out the Cardassians for planting the bomb in the inner cooler matrix, not the secondary plasma relay.
Oh my gosh.
What kind of sloppy operation are they running here? Gul, Steve, and Damar are like, hey, what's the big deal? We blew up some Jem'Hadar, didn't we? But Kira is like, well, only because the security on that ship sucked worse than we do. But Gul Steve is like, well, but my man Bronok was on that operation. He's my top guy. And Kira's like, no, we're not supposed to be using names. Everything's got to be compartmentalized. Any one of us could get captured and tortured. Like, what part of this are you not getting?
I mean, if Gull Steve gets captured and tortured, he already knows those names.
True.
I mean, also, they started out as like one big group, and she made them split up. But I was like, but they all already know each other when you showed up. So I don't see how now splitting up fixes the problem.
True. But at least better late than never, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, Gull Steve is like, look, all I'm saying is that Bronock and his whole cell, which operate out of their secret base on Cardassia 3, are great guys. And also, you should totally meet Bronock's wife and kids, who are hiding at our safe house at 123 Yamak Sauce Street in Cardassia City. But Kira's not having it, and Gull Steve gets annoyed and leaves. And then Kira tells Damar, that guy really sucks. Are you going to do anything about him? And Damar says, yes, I'm going to give him my support.
Good leadership. Okay.
Sure. And then Odo arrives fresh off a very successful sounding raid on the Tivok shipyard. And he gives his report and heads off to the bunk room to rest. But he's kind of limping, and Kira watches him meaningfully while, like, music plays. And then Garrett goes into the bunk room and finds Odo laying there looking extremely not good. This puts Garrick in the awkward position of voicing the audience's confusion about how Odo is suddenly so sick from the changeling disease after being symptom-free for years. Odo explains that the shapeshifting seems to be accelerating the disease, and he's been doing a lot of shapeshifting lately.
The Founders, known for, like, restraining from shapeshifting.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't know. Garrick avoids pointing out all the times that Odo has shapeshifted since he supposedly got infected with the virus, and asks why Odo doesn't just stop shapeshifting. And Odo says, well, I don't want to just sit around, I have work to do, and I'm going to do it. And then Garrick wants to point out that Odo can still go on missions without shapeshifting, but he decides to let it drop, and asks if Kira knows how sick Odo is. And Odo says, no. I mean, she keeps staring at me soulfully while sad music plays, but that could be anything, so please don't tell her. I don't need her pity. And Garrick is like, yeah, sure, whatever. Anyway, do you know anyone on Kelvis 5? Muse is doing a concert there, and some of us are looking for a place to crash. And Odo says, let me think about it, and then Garrick awkwardly tries to say something consoling to Odo. And Odo says, look, if I don't want Kira's pity, I definitely don't want yours. And then Garrick says, fair enough, and walks off.
Garrick, notoriously good at keeping secrets, so this should not be an issue.
Sure. I mean, he is good at keeping secrets.
But no, I was being legitimate there.
I think his default mode is keeping secrets, so I don't think he was going to tell anybody anyway. Although later he does betray the confidence, so maybe we're giving him too much.
Yeah, like at almost the first opportunity, which I was just like, oh, come on, Garrick. You're better than that at keeping secrets. Like it's like obsessive compulsive for you, where you're just like, I have to not only keep everything a secret, but also create lies about all of it.
I think maybe his sense of self-preservation overrode his sense of having to keep secrets. But anyway,
when he spills the beans to Kira, he should have been like, Odo is secretly sicker than he's letting on. Also, I think he's a Cardassian spy or a Dominion spy. Like, just add a lie in there to like mix it up a little bit.
Right. But speaking of the changeling virus, Dr. Bashir has been up all night in the Deep Space Nine infirmary trying to find a cure. Or maybe the science lab. Like, didn't we used to have a science lab?
Yep, there's a science lab somewhere. I don't know. He's in some place doing, medical research. That's the important thing. Yeah.
Wherever he is, O'Brien stops by to see how he's doing, and Bashir says he's getting nowhere. His DNA integration theory turned out to be a blind alley, and he's going to have to start over at square one. And O'Brien is like, okay, well, no offense to your amazing disease-curing skills, but I think we need to go back to the original plan we came up with like last week of infiltrating Section 31 and finding the actual person who engineered the virus.
I just brought it up. I think they are in the infirmary.
Ah, okay. But yeah, apparently they spent 2 whole weeks trying to track down Section 31 and didn't get anywhere. So I guess it turns out that tracking down an ultra-secretive deep state shadow ops group is not easy.
See, it's funny because the note in here says the original script at the end of this episode, Bashir and O'Brien set off for a planet which they discovered is host to Section 31's headquarters.
Oh.
And I was like, wait a second. How would they find the super top secret headquarters? Like, are they just going around asking people, hey, do you know where Section 31's headquarters are? And they're like, oh, actually, yes.
It's like the Hall of Justice, but it says like Hall of Section 31 at the front.
But it's not that, like, what feels like a huge plot hole to me. And maybe they came up in the original draft with some convincing way for them to find this. I don't know. But they decided not to do that because as they started writing the next episode, they realized, oh, if they go to like this new planet and a secret base and there's all the Section 31 stuff, that's going to be a really expensive episode. And then we won't have any money left for the finale.
We'll have to build a new set. Ugh.
Yeah, so they scaled that one back.
Nice. Well, I think this way makes more sense anyway. Like, O'Brien and Bashir, they're great, but they're not exactly like super spy hunters or whatever.
For sure.
Then O'Brien suggests getting Captain Sisko to ask Starfleet intelligence for some help, and Bashir shoots that down as a dumb idea, and based on what we've seen in previous episodes, I have to agree with him.
I mean, yeah, asking Starfleet intelligence for help, not a good idea. Talking to Captain Sisko about what you're doing, maybe a good idea.
Yeah, I think last episode they had the lame excuse, like, well, if we tell Captain Sisko, he'll have to report it, or something like that, which is definitely not true.
Dumb excuse. And Sisko always gets pissed when you do stuff behind his back. And I feel like he rarely, when you have good reasons, and you're like, hey, we want to do this shady, like, maybe not completely up with Starfleet rules thing, he's like, okay, no, yeah. I see your logic, do that thing.
Uh-huh.
If he says no, it's usually for a good reason. So, I'm just like, you guys.
I mean, even later in this episode, Worf is like, well, I have a plan. And Sisko's like, okay, do it. I don't even want to hear what it is. Just go do it.
You get in trouble when you hide these things, though. And then things go wrong. It's like that episode where O'Brien gets lost on Ezri's mom's home planet or whatever. And everybody's like, I don't want to go get that famous Sisko boot.
Yeah. And then everybody's like, where's Chief O'Brien? Anyway, Bashir has come to the realization that he was number 2 at Starfleet Medical, not at Starfleet Spy Catching School. So he's going to stick to what he's good at. And then he tells O'Brien to get the hell out, which I thought was kind of harsh.
A little bit.
So O'Brien leaves the infirmary, and we immediately cut to him in the background of the next scene, standing outside the window of Captain Sisko's office, which I thought was...
You need a good transition,
Sure. But yeah, Gowron is there complaining to Sisko about Martok's failed attack on Avenal 7. Gowron is operating under the assumption that all surprise attacks should be a guaranteed win, no matter how deep in enemy territory you are or how outnumbered you are. And he blames Martok for the bad outcome.
Yeah, he really just, like, his constant refrain is like, but they had the element of surprise.
Right. He was like, how could this fail when they had 6 times as many people as we did?
I love his, like, when Sisko points out that there were 6 times as many guys there, he's like, a good commander beats the odds, not hides behind them. And I'm like, what are you, like, seriously that dumb?
Right. But yeah, Sisko gets real mad and starts yelling at Gowron that we all told you that this attack was a stupid idea, so I think this one's squarely on you. And Gowron says, well, at least I commend you for your loyalty to your friends. And Sisko was like, no, I'm not being loyal to anyone. You are incredibly dumb and bad at this. I don't know how much more clear I can make my position.
I love, like, Martok's in critical condition in the Rotaran sickbay, and Gowron's delivery was like, he's expected to live. It's just so incredibly, like, crazy. I was like, oh, man.
I thought that was a great delivery. It's like, well, he's expected to live.
It's like, what are you complaining about? Apparently there is a deleted scene from the script, at least, at the end, or not even a scene, like some lines at the end of this scene, where Gowron's like, Martok's flagship won't return for 3 days. That should give me time to finalize plans for our next operation. And Sisko's like, Chancellor, we can't afford to keep wasting ships in these reckless attacks. To which Gowron threateningly replies, I like a brave man, Captain, but not a foolish one. The soldiers of the Empire are mine to command, and if I say the attacks will continue, they continue.
What does that have to do with him liking a brave man but not a foolish one? Isn't he the foolish man in this situation?
Well, no, I think he's saying, like, I like when you're, because he's just told Captain Sisko, he's like, I like how you're loyal to your friends. He's like,
okay.
I like that you're brave enough to, like, confront me, but if you try to boss me around, that moves into foolishness.
Sure. Yeah, whatever. Like, Gowron's gonna do anything.
I don't know, he's unpredictable.
Yeah. But yeah, Gowron's like, okay, I won't fire Martok this time, and then he leaves, and Sisko's like, oh my god, this guy is dumb.
Fair.
And then we go to a scene that I wound up analyzing obsessively, and it drove me kind of crazy, which is at the Dominion War Room in Cardassia. Weyoun gives a briefing about the Klingon raid at Avenal to Boom Boom Parkins and at least one Breen guy, who at first I thought was Thought Gore in a snazzy new helmet with faux mahogany finish, but is actually a new guy named Thought Pran.
Yeah, Thought Pran just replaces Thought Gore in this episode with no explanation, and I'm pretty sure, like, Thought Gore never shows up again.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a detail that's always stuck with me for some reason, is that Thought Gore got replaced by a guy named Thought Pran. But in my mind, I always thought Thought Gore died, but we definitely did not ever see him die. So
no.
Whatever happened to him, I don't know.
We never even saw, like, an indication that he was going to go into a situation where he might die.
Well, to confuse matters further, Thought Gore is definitely in this scene, but we'll get to that in a second. So anyway, Boom Boom Parkins doesn't seem too interested in a bunch of Klingons flying deep into Dominion space and getting themselves blown up. She wants to know what's going on with Damar's resistance. And Weyoun says, oh, that's no big deal. We still control the Cardassian military. I see no reason why we shouldn't rely on them remaining loyal to us, the foreign occupiers, and not to their own leader. And Boom Boom Parkins says, but didn't you also say that Damar would never turn against the Dominion? And Weyoun says, well, I mean, come on, the guy spent years grumbling about how much he hates the Dominion. Who could have foreseen that he'd actually turn against us?
I think Thought Pran is the one who says that, and then Boom Boom Parkins is like, yeah, that's a good point, and then repeats the thing that he just said, because we didn't understand it.
Right. Or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, why would she need to repeat it if Weyoun also heard it? But yeah, who knows? But as Weyoun is talking, we also cut to some reaction shots of someone who is wearing Thought Gore's helmet. It is clearly Thought Gore. And I did some, like, screen caps of, like, previous scenes of Thought Gore. It is clearly Thought Gore and not Thought Pran. And just, like, the way the scene is filmed, it's very difficult to tell if there are two Breen guys or if just they didn't have enough reaction shots of Thought Pran, so they snuck in some of Thought Gore and hoped nobody would notice.
That's a good point, yeah. You can't tell how big this room is or if other people might be in here.
Yeah. So I seriously, like, rewound and, like, freeze framed this scene over and over and over again, trying to figure out what was going on. But, like, the first time I watched it, I didn't even notice. And I was like, oh, Thought Pran has this, like, cool, like, oiled bronze, mahogany looking helmet. And then, like, the next shot is, like, a guy with clearly Thought Gore's helmet. I was like, wait a second. Anyway, Weyoun continues that the Cardassians are people who respect authority, or at least they do when they're the ones in authority. I assume the same holds true when we're having authority over them. That's how it works, right? And Boom Boom Parkins is like, okay, you're the worst Weyoun yet. If our cloning facility was working, I'd have you killed right now.
I mean, she does love to have Vorta killed and replaced by their clones. We established that last week.
Yeah, she will do that at the drop of a hat, for sure.
Also, you skipped over the part where she's just like, yeah, find Damar's wife and kids.
Right.
And then also just interrogate random teacher scientists and such to see if they know anything about Damar. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know why the teachers would know, but right. Okay.
Yeah, no. No, I didn't skip that. That's my next note. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's like, okay, here's the plan. We're going to track down Damar's wife and kids. I want all the scientists and teachers and local officials. Like, why those three groups? Who knows? And third, put Cardassian civilians in and around Dominion military installations so that Damar will have to kill Cardassians whenever he attacks. This will turn the people against him, says Boom Boom Parkins. That's how people think, right? They'll take our side when we round up civilians and use them as human shields. And then Weyoun is like, yeah, totally. That's a 100% flawless plan.
Yep.
We'll get right on that.
No notes.
And then Boom Boom tells Thought Prawn to accelerate the installation of the super brain energy weapons on Jim'Hadar ships. And then Thought Prawn presumably says, sure thing, and then leaves.
He's like, I'll do it if I feel like, and then leaves.
And then maybe Thought Gore leaves with him if he was there too. I don't know. I like to think that they were like, hey, where's Thought Gore? And then it's like, I don't know, but somebody stole all the silver out of the cabinet.
Thought Gore was always just like a con artist ready to take all the stuff that he could grab and disappear.
And then Thought Prawn shows up. He's like, well, I guess we're in this war now. So, and then, this is the part where Boom Boom Parkins tells Weyoun, it's like, hey, I was just wondering, when is the cloning facility going to get back online? And then Weyoun says, oh man, who knows? Could be weeks. And then Boom Boom is just like, okay, keep me informed, for no particular reason. And speaking of the brain energy weapons, back on Cardassian Resistance HQ, Garrick has just gotten back from his Muse concert on Kelvis 5 and says that he heard the Dominion is starting to install the weapons on all the Jim'Hadar ships.
Oh man, the intelligence racks up quick.
Yep. Kira and Damar recap that Starfleet still hasn't figured out how the weapons work, and nobody knows why the Klingon ships aren't affected. But if they could get their hands on one of the weapons, that would sure help the Federation scientist figure out a defense. However, Gull Steve objects to this idea because he's an idiot. But he's quickly overruled.
No, yeah. You shut up, guy.
He's like, why should we help Starfleet do their dirty work? And it's like, well, aren't you also fighting the Dominion? How do you not see the... Do you want to analyze the weapon and see how it works?
Help stop the Dominion from winning the war? Why do you think we're here?
So I don't understand how this super unbeatable weapon is our problem when we're trying to fight them. And Kira says, okay, well, let's sneak into a Cardassian repair facility on Kelvis 5. And we'll bring a team of me, a Bajoran, Gull Steve, the stupidest person in the entire Resistance, Garrick, the well-known and widely hated Cardassian exile, and Damar, the leader and public face of the Cardassian Resistance, which are, I assume, those four people are the ace of spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs in the the Dominion most wanted deck of cards.
Quite possibly, yeah.
But and then they're like, oh, and let's also bring Odo. And this is where Garrick pulls Kira aside. He's like, all right, the rest of the team, that makes perfect sense. But I think I should tell you, Odo hasn't been 100% lately. And Kira's like, well, yeah, obviously. The guy limps around everywhere, and he spends all day in the bunk room. But he's trying to keep it a secret, and helping him save face is more important to me than the success of any mission. And Garrick is like, okay, whatever you say. Back at Deep Space Nine, the Rotaran has returned from the disastrous Avenal raid, and Worf stands vigil over Martok as he recovers from his battle wounds in the infirmary. Then Sisko calls Worf to the captain's office, where he tells him, all right, look, we have a problem, and his name is Gowron.
Yep.
Worf concurs, saying that Gowron is obviously fixated on some imaginary political rivalry with Martok. But luckily, Worf has an idea of how to handle the situation. And Sisko says, great, do it. The Klingons have the only ships able to fight the Dominion right now, and we need them not to suck.
Yes, not sucking is just a good general strategy in war, I feel like.
Right. Especially when all of your eggs are currently in this basket.
Yeah, if that basket was not full of giant holes, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And so Worf says, well, do you want to hear my plan? And Sisko's like, no, just go do it. And Worf is like, oh, okay, don't have to tell me twice.
Klingon stuff is always dumb, and if you tell me I'm going to have to, be upset about how dumb this is. So just go.
Yeah, I just don't want to hear any more Klingon stuff. Like,
it's like, I remember what happened when your brother showed up, and I had to get involved in you stabbing him because like Dax figured it out, and it was no. I don't want to be in the middle of it anymore.
Yeah, I assume it involves some sort of ritual or blood feud or something that involves swords or knives. Just like, yeah, I don't want to know the details.
If I have to show up, they're going to make me cut my hand again, and it's like hard to do anything for a while after that. So,
yeah, the less I'm involved, the better. Back at the Cardassian Resistance, Kira is trying to get some work done, but Gull Steve is being his usual annoying self. He accuses Kira of secretly trying to kill all the Cardassians, and she says, "You are dumb, go away."
Yeah, he's just like, "You want every single one of us dead, don't you?" It's like, yeah, that's why I'm here, all right.
I mean, kind of, but right now I have bigger goals.
Yeah, she's like, well, that's the long-term plan. Like, short-term is different.
I mean, all things being equal, obviously I want you all dead, but things are not equal right now, so... then Gull Steve tries to put hands on Kira, and Kira quickly hands him his ass.
Also, you see that like the back top of his uniform thing is just like completely... It's like there's a big flappy thing that flaps off a bunch as she's like hitting him, and I was like, geez, these uniforms are not really on there well.
I did not notice that. Although this had the great line where he's like, I really hit a nerve, didn't I? And she's like, no, this is hitting a nerve. And does something that we can't see.
And then Garrett creepily steps out of the shadows after he leaves, which is a great moment that I loved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Gull Steve says, you just you wait until this war is over, and then I'll show you. And then he walks off. And then, yeah, Garrett does this just like classic step out of the shadows entrance, which I'm sure he was just like, oh, this is going to be so great. And he has his phaser out, so I guess he was going to shoot Gull Steve if anything happened, but...
Or, maybe if things turned the wrong way, he was going to shoot Kira and be like, I was always on y'all's side, Cardassian guy.
True.
You never know.
He's like, you'll have to do something about Gull Steve long before the end of the war. He's obviously going to make a move against you the first chance he gets. I recommend you kill him ASAP.
And then Kira was like, hey, you know how to kill people super sneakily. Why don't I delegate that to you? And you handle it.
I don't even think she really has to, like the way things are going, but or has to tell him that. Back on Deep Space Nine, Worf has revealed his secret plan to Martok, which is apparently just that Martok challenge Gowron. Martok says, no, it would be treasonous to challenge Gowron in the middle of a war. Plus, nobody on the High Council would ever follow a lowborn commoner from the Ketha lowlands. So he's still kind of like got that chip on his shoulder.
That's true. It's funny because back in the Next Generation episode Redemption, Worf is the one who's like, no, we can't challenge Gowron during a time of war. That would not be appropriate.
So clearly, Gowron has gotten on Worf's last nerve by this point.
I mean, I don't blame him, given like the wishy-washy support of Gowron for, Worf. He's like, oh, you're my best friend. No, I hate you. You're banished forever. Nah, we're friends again. Wait, do I hate you? Maybe. Like, it's.
Yeah, I mean, also didn't Gowron like dismantle his house and seize all his lands and stuff? So.
Yep. Caused his brother to have to be brainwashed and forget who he was, and it's all on Gowron.
His brother, who's just still out there somewhere, brainwashed.
Maybe he could have been serving on the Rotaran and died in that battle for all we know. That 6-1 battle.
So you think there's just some stuff we never saw where Worf like tracked his brother down, or I guess he knew where his brother was.
No, I mean like that he could have just ended up on some random Klingon ship that
sure.
is in the war and got destroyed because of Gowron's poor decisions.
That's also true. But yeah, Worf tells Martok, no, people love you. And then Martok puts his foot down and says, nope, not gonna do it. I'd rather die than dishonor the uniform. So, and then aboard the Starfleet runabout, which is carrying the infiltration squad that is going to steal the Breen weapon from the Cardassian shipyard, Odo catches Kira staring at him, and he's like, don't worry, it'll probably be a long time before I start showing symptoms. And I'm sure there will be a cure by then. And Kira is like, yeah, sure. I'm going to go to the back and see what the Cardassians are up to. And so she goes back there and sees that Damar is looking slightly distracted. And she's like, what's up? And Damar is like, not much. I just heard that my wife and son were captured and murdered by the Dominion. That's kind of a bummer. And then Damar is like, what kind of government tolerates something like that? What kind of people would give those orders? And Kira immediately hits him with, yeah, Damar, what kind of people would give those orders? And then Damar is like, and just walks away.
He gives her like he seems upset about it for a second, and then he actually seems to think, and then he kind of gives her a little nod before walking away. And Garrick has his whole speech about like, if he's the right man to lead the new Cardassia, then your words will like make him fight harder or whatever. And I was like, I think it did look like he kind of took that to heart.
I don't know. I think Kira's right that probably was not the right time to say that. But I don't know. I guess I mean, Damar didn't seem too terribly upset about his family dying anyway. So,
I think this episode is the first time we've even heard he has a family.
I could have sworn it was explicitly established at one point that he didn't have a family, but I could be misremembering that.
Ducat used to talk about his family all the time.
Yeah.
Even when he's talking about like all the other like Bajoran women he was sleeping with, he was talking about his wife and 7 kids or whatever back home.
I mean, maybe since he became like the legate, he settled down and made a family or something. Who knows? But yeah, Garrick is like, well, that was an important thing for him to hear. It'll do him some good. So, and then their Starfleet runabout arrives at the rendezvous with the Cardassian shuttle that will take them the rest of the way on their mission, but we won't see that part. Thus ending the saga of them not having to build a new set just for those couple of scenes we just saw. Back at Quark's, where Quark isn't, but whatever. Worf discusses the Martok situation with Ezri. Worf has decided it's no use trying to convince Martok to challenge Gowron, so he's going to change his approach and just try to convince Gowron not to suck. And Worf also reveals to Ezri, almost tangentially, that Ezri has now been admitted to the House of Martok. And Ezri says that's sweet, which Worf does not approve of. So Ezri's like, oh, did I say sweet? I meant honorable. And Worf says better, albeit a little obvious, which, dude, whatever, Worf.
I like that he's like, I mean, yeah, that was the obvious approach.
Is there another adjective in Klingon even? I don't think so. So Worf asks Ezri for her advice, and Ezri says, well, you're not going to like it, but frankly, I think the main problem is that the Klingon Empire just sucks in general. And Worf is like, you're right, I don't like that.
Yeah, she's like, okay, so I'm going to be straight with you. The Empire sucks.
Right.
And the only way out of it is going to be to, not suck. Take all those guys who suck and get rid of them and put people in who don't suck.
Yep. Yeah, she's like, look, who was the last leader of the High Council you actually respected? You can't even think of one.
I was like, I mean, Worf is known 2 personally. I don't know that he knows more than that.
I mean, I'm sure he's known of, other ones, so. But yeah, her main point is like, the reason all this corruption continues to exist is that like good people like Worf allow it to continue existing.
Mm-hmm.
And this seems to give Worf something to think about.
Gotta be the change you want to see in the world, or whatever the expression is.
Yeah. As Gandhi said, as quoted by every valedictorian ever. Then the Cardassian resistance crew arrive at their destination, which is a Cardassian shipyard with a Jem'Hadar ship docked at it. And they employ the old Chewbacca trick and claim that Kira is a captured Starfleet prisoner they want to take to the nearest Vorta.
I mean, speaking of not having to build new sets, it's like, this is clearly like a Deep Space Nine haul, but I guess it's supposed to be a Cardassian facility, so it kind of fits.
I was like, what is this a new set? But I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that is like literally the airlock door, and they've just like, in the reverse shots, put a new door on the right side or whatever.
I mean, they did specifically establish that this is a Cardassian facility, so
yeah,
it does. I guess it does make sense. But yeah, so the Cardassian guard says, okay, you can go to the Vorta, but you need to leave your guns here. Armed Cardassians aren't allowed on Jem'Hadar ships. And they're like, okay, and hand over their weapons. And as he takes their weapons, the Cardassian guard is like, good luck, Legate Damar, who I obviously recognize.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's clear if it's just like, oh, I recognize you and I approve of whatever you're going to be doing, or if this is literally like their inside man.
I read it as he was not part of the plan. He was just like, obviously I know who you are. Like, you were the president of all of Cardassia for a long time. I'm shocked that Jem'Hadar guy and all the Dominion characters we meet later do not, like, recognize him.
The Jem'Hadar are probably just like, I mean, they all look the same to us. When they meet the Vorta, Damar does kind of try to hang in the background and, like, not be obvious.
Yeah, true. But, like, earlier when he was on the Starfleet runabout, he was wearing his, like, Cardassian logo badge that signifies he's the leader or whatever. And I was like, did he even bother taking that off? But he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, they walk to the Jem'Hadar ship and Kira pops off her handcuffs, which are actually Odo. Then they go to the bridge of the ship and tell the Vorta there, hey, we caught this valuable Starfleet intelligence officer. Do you want to interrogate her? And the Vorta is like, no, I'm the captain of this one random ship. Why would I want her?
Right.
But they're interrupted when the door opens and in walks Boom Boom Parkins. She goes up to a Jem'Hadar guy and is like, oh, cool gun. Can I see? And then he gives her his gun. And Boom Boom is like, oh yeah, that's a cool gun. What do you think? And hands it to Garrick. And then Garrick immediately guns down the Vorta and all the Jem'Hadar there.
I do like, I don't know if it's consistency or what, but it's just like, oh yeah, Odo gets the gun, but he's not going to shoot anybody.
Right.
You know, when the Vorta and the Jem'Hadar would be like least worried because it's like, oh, a founder. I mean, that's a god. If he shoots us or if she shoots us, then we deserve to be shot. So we're not going to, defend ourselves or anything. Instead, he hands it to Garrick when Cardassians are not allowed to be armed, which I feel like should increase everyone's like readiness in case something happens. And then something happens.
But the founder did hand it to him. So
it's true.
Maybe he's like blessed now. But yeah, I wonder what would happen if just like Boom Boom Parkins started like shooting all the people, like how they would react. They'd be like, oh, I guess we've like displeased the founder or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like all those Vorta. Like, execute them. They're probably like, yes, ma'am.
Yep.
And then I love that Odo goes through like the pantomime of looking really surprised.
Well, no, he is surprised because I guess he thought the plan was to take them prisoner.
Well, that was silly.
Because he's like, did you have to kill them all? And then Garrick says, look, we don't have time to be taking prisoners right now. He's like, okay, even though, yeah, really the whole reason was so that for that brief moment, we would still not realize that's Odo, but still. So they get ready to fly the ship out of there, but then Garrick checks a computer screen and reports that they haven't finished installing the Breen weapon yet, so they can't leave. And I'd also just like to note at this point that Gull Steve contributes absolutely nothing to this entire mission. I mean, at least Damar got recognized and got a little help from that like Cardassian guard guy, so... Anyway, Garrick figures it'll take 45 minutes to finish installing the weapon. However, they're also getting a call for the Vorta they just killed. So Kira picks up the phone and is like, yeah, this is the Vorta. My camera's broken, but it's totally me.
I mean, we've seen Odo perfectly replicate other people's voices as a shapeshifter. I feel like maybe that would have been the way to go.
But yeah, Kira is able to successfully bluff her way through the phone call. And then Gull Steve is like, well, what if they didn't believe you? And Kira says, then we're all dead. And I think Gull Steve is probably like, yeah, even I can see that was a dumb question. Back in Dr. Bashir's lab or the infirmary or whatever, Julian is still working on the cure, and Miles comes in to deliver some crab rolls that Keiko made. Keiko, who is still totally around.
Also, Julian's cure research seems to involve, like, putting a test tube inside an upside-down fishbowl. I'm not sure how that works or helps exactly, but, science.
He put it in a test tube. That's science. He's doing science.
But yeah, Keiko, she's here,
Yeah, I mean, you always just missed her. Every time you see Chief O'Brien, you just missed Keiko.
Yeah.
But yeah, Julian says thanks for the crab rolls and starts to apologize for his earlier asshole-ishness. But Miles is basically like, look, I've been friends with you this long. I know what your deal is. But Miles has been doing some thinking. What would Section 31 do if we actually found a cure? And Julian says, well, I mean, probably Sloan or someone like him would show up and smash the place up and just destroy the cure. And O'Brien says, well, why don't we send a message to Starfleet Medical saying we found the cure, and then when Section 31 sends someone, we'll just grab them and beat the information we need out of them. And Bashir is like, the Walter Sobchak plan. I like it. Let's do it.
I grab him and beat it out of him. So Swiss watch right there.
It's a perfect plan, Walter. It's a brilliant plan if I understand it correctly. Then we see a bunch of Klingons meeting in what seems to be the Deep Space Nine wardroom, but there are batleths hanging on the wall for some reason, so I don't know if this is like a special Klingon meeting room they've designated or what.
That's probably what it is they're like, okay, the Klingons can have this meeting room on the station, and then the Klingons are like, well, it has to be properly decorated or we can't meet there.
Right. Why are there no swords on the wall of this room? But yeah, Gowron pitches his next idea for an attack. This time he wants to attack the headquarters of the entire 12th Order on like the most heavily defended planet in all of Cardassian space. And Martok is like, okay, this is the stupidest idea you've had yet. And Gowron is like, what's the matter, chicken? And Martok is like, no, I'll do it.
I just like that none of the other... I assume if they're all at this big planning meeting, these are all important, like, advisors or whatever. Uh-huh. No one else has a single word to say about this very stupid plan.
Yeah, and, like, Gowron addresses one of them as general, I'm pretty sure. So, I assume this is all, like, generals and stuff at their high-level, like, war meeting.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this point, Worf stands up and is like, okay, no, absolutely not. We are not going to do this plan. You are a huge freaking idiot. And Gowron is like, why, I'd never... If you weren't wearing that Starfleet uniform, I'd kill you right now. And then Worf says, fine. And he takes off his comm badge, which is, we've established, the universal symbol of I'm not wearing my uniform anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not going to strip naked and have this fight.
True. Yeah, he's like, okay, no uniform. I'm calling you the biggest moron in the whole galaxy, and I'm saying that you suck in general. And then Gowron is like, okay, fine, let's do this. And he grabs a batleth off the wall. And then Worf grabs a batleth, and they start going at it.
I like Martok walks up, he's like, Worf, this is madness. And I wonder Worf is like, no, this is Sparta.
Unfortunately, that movie had not come out yet. But
yeah. And all the other Klingons in the room still have nothing to say about any of this.
Right, yeah, they just kind of all stand there without delivering any lines. But yeah, then Worf's batleth gets broken, so he picks up 2 shards and starts fighting with those. And then Gowron is able to knock Worf down through a glass map thing, which I'm sure was like a big stunt. And Gowron is about to go in for the killing blow, but then Worf reaches up and stabs Gowron with his 2 batleth shards that he still had in his hands the whole time.
Also, I have to say, if you're paying much attention during the fight scene, like, Gowron's stunt double does not look very much like Gowron.
Nice. So, Worf stabs Gowron, or whoever that is, and then Gowron says, you will not have this day. But then he falls over dead. Thus, the Gowron problem is solved.
And it's funny, because Worf stabbed a guy to put Gowron on the, I was going to say throne, but in that position as leader of the Empire in the first place. And now he stabs Gowron to take him out of that position. So, like, Worf is just, like, the architect of Gowron's entire rule.
Worf is the kingmaker of the Klingon Empire. The Worf giveth and the Worf taketh away.
Exactly.
Martok takes the Chancellor's jacket and throws it over Worf and says, all hail Worf, leader of the Empire.
Which, come on. I think that's going to be a much harder sell than, like, the lead general in the war takes over. Like, this guy doesn't even have a house.
But, I mean, he was the guy who killed Gowron, so I think you have to kind of follow form here. And everybody does start chanting Worf, Worf, Worf. So even though they do seem kind of half-hearted about it.
They had to pay those guys the increased rate for having lines just for this.
I wonder if that counts. I don't know.
There's a fun note in here that back in Apocalypse Rising, if you recall, Worf and Gowron also had a fight, but it stops because Odo discovers that Martok is secretly the Changeling and not Gowron.
Yes.
And afterwards, Gowron says, "You should have killed me when you had the chance. You won't get another." But it turns out he did get another. And,
yep. And he took it.
It happened. Yep. There's also a note that after Michael Dorn read the teleplay for the episode, he went and found Robert O'Reilly and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to kill you."
Nice.
My bad. Okay. Also, this is not the original ending of this story that they had mapped out. I want you to take a guess at how else they plan to resolve this issue.
I'm going to guess that Gowron was a changeling after all.
That would have been interesting. Yeah, maybe he was recently replaced and decided to. Yeah, okay. No, the initial plan was that Worf would go and talk to Gowron and be like, "Hey, you're letting your ego guide your decisions here, man, and that's not in the best interest of the Empire." And Gowron would be like, "You know what? You're right." And he would go back to Kronos, and Martok would take over again.
Oh, yeah, that's a much lamer ending. This was the correct way to go.
Ronald D. Moore is quoted in here. He's like, "Look, that felt like the easy way out, like it let the Empire off the hook, and I wanted to view the Klingons with the same cold eye that Ezri was." And I was like, yeah, these guys are corrupt, and Worf has put up with that for too long. Like, this is an important thing for the show to say, so we're going to say it.
Oh, sure. Although, we're kind of solving the problem through the way Klingons normally do things, so. It's not like Worf was like, we should be a democracy now, or something like that.
It's true, but I feel like this is maybe the reason that they have this sort of thing in the first place. It's like, hey, if there's somebody who's corrupt and only gives a crap about themselves and not the Empire, there is a way that you can, through channels, confront this and get rid of him.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is the one time that I'm like, no, I think that this is a legitimate use of the existing rules of the Empire.
Right. I mean, if you have this like challenge mechanism, this is 100% the correct time to use it. But yeah, so Worf is like, no, I don't want to be the leader of the Empire. And he gives the jacket to Martok and says, "Hail Martok, leader of the Empire, leader of destiny." Nobody starts chanting Martok, but I guess everybody's still cool with it.
And Worf has his like, great men do not seek power. They have it like thrust upon them or whatever. Yeah. And the note in here is like, this is ascribed to Kales. It's a paraphrase of a William Shakespeare play, Twelfth Night, or What You Will, Act 2, Scene 5.
It's kind of also like in Star Trek First Contact.
Yeah. But the comic character Malvolio reads in a letter sent to him in order to mock him, "Be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and others have greatness thrust upon them." So I love that this is like a serious line that our society has taken that originates from like this comic play where someone is sending it to this guy to make fun of him.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of like a trope, but
for sure.
I don't know. It works for Martok, so he's like, all right, I'll have destiny thrust upon me. Back on the Jim'Hadar ship, the weapon installation is taking longer than expected, and Odo is not having a good time, and he's unable to hold his healthy-looking form anymore, and he reverts to his sickly-looking form. And Gul Steve is like, "What? Odo is sick? That's it. I'm calling off the mission. I have no clue how we're going to get out of here at this point, but still."
Yeah, he's just like, the whole plan is falling apart. We're getting out of here. And I was like, I think things have actually gone relatively smoothly, all things considered.
It's like, where are you going to go, also? Then he points his gun at Odo and Kira, and then Garrick points his gun at Gul Steve. We get a little bit of like that meme where the people are in the church and pointing guns at each other. Yeah, Garrick points his gun at Gul Steve, and Gul Steve is like, "You're bluffing. You wouldn't kill me for a Bajoran woman." And Garrick is basically like, "I would literally kill you for any reason."
Yeah, he's like, "I have killed people I like way more than you for way." Like, you remember that time that he shot that guy and he was like, "Oh man, I kind of liked him," and it was like to save Quark. Like it's yeah. No problem.
You have horribly misread the situation, Goal Steve.
You do not know Garrick at all.
And then Damar points his gun at Goal Steve and Garrick and is like, okay, just cut it out. And then Goal Steve is like, come on, Damar, shoot Garrick, and then I'll shoot Kira and we can get out of here. Just aim and fire. So Damar aims and fires, and then there's a fake moment of suspense as if we don't know who Damar shot. But then we cut to Goal Steve laying on the ground, dead, and the Goal Steve problem is solved.
Well, I love that in the middle of this Mexican standoff, it's like, oh, hey, the thing beeped. They're done installing the weapon. We can go.
Right.
And Goal Steve's like, no, we'll kill them and we'll keep the weapon for ourselves. I was like, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Like, are you going to use it to fight against the Dominion, who does know how this weapon works and probably is already defended against it? Like, what is your plan? Dumbass.
Yep. But yeah, so Damar says, Goal Steve was my friend, but God, he was stupid. And then he says that Goal Steve's vision of Cardassia is gone and it won't be coming back. And Kira looks at Damar approvingly. So that's two previously bad empires that are now seemingly about to turn good. So
yeah, fair point. I hadn't thought about it that way. There must have been. I mean, looking at it from that perspective, there must have been a better title, like about like two empires like changing directions than Tacking Against the Wind. It's like some Game of Thrones shit here.
I think just maybe they were too busy and they were like, I just pull a random title off like the title pile or whatever.
So there's a note here from Ron Moore that he's a big fan of how this episode brings Kira full circle, returning her to her terrorist roots.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I don't know if that was this episode necessarily.
I mean, yeah, we've kind of been in the process of doing that.
Yeah. But then Nana Visitor also comments, like, it's interesting. I became a colonel and Kira's been on like the administrative side. And my whole arc is like learning to use her mind and not her brawn so much. But then the writers, in their wisdom, found a way to get me back to the beginning by sending me to Cardassia and having me train them to be terrorists or freedom fighters or whatever.
Sure.
It's like she's older and wiser now, but you get to see that she's still got it. She's still kind of scrappy.
Yep. Yep. She can beat Goal Steve in a fight anyway.
Yep. I mean, I feel like he should have taken that as a message. It's like she can easily kick your ass and can do it again. Like maybe don't mess with her.
But yeah, we don't get to see Kira in her like full resistance glory very often. I'm trying to think if we've ever seen that before.
I mean, there was that episode where like they're she and Shakar are running in the mountains, like escaping from Kai Wynn's forces or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's true. But yeah, so yes, the weapon is finished being installed now, so they're able to get out of there. And then Kira says, flood all the compartments with the gas, which let's not dwell too much on what that means.
Well, no, earlier when they first got there and they took over the bridge, she's like, flood all of the compartments except the bridge with Nurazine gas. And then they're like, wait, we can't do that. They're not done installing the weapon yet.
Oh, okay.
And so once the weapon was installed, we can do that.
I have a feeling this is not just like this is not a non-lethal gas. Or maybe it's just a sleepy gas, and then they'll have a bunch of prisoners. Who knows?
Let's see. Nurazine, I feel like that's come up fairly frequently. Incapacitates humanoids.
Oh, okay. And hopefully it'll also affect the brain with their helmets and stuff. If they're lucky, maybe they knocked out like the brain technicians, and they can interrogate them and figure out what's going on.
Ah, crap. Hold on. So apparently there's Nurazine gas, which it calls out this episode in the wiki. That they were using it to immobilize the Breen engineers installing the energy weapon. Also, it popped up in an episode of Voyager. But also, there's Nuracine gas, which is used by Cardassians and is toxic to Bajorans and humans, because that's the gas that, like, in civil defense, like when Gul Dukat's recordings are like, oh, we're flooding it with Nuracine gas and we're going to kill everybody. So these are way too similarly named.
So Kira tells Garrick, it's like flood with the Nurazine gas. He's like, Nuracine gas? You got it.
Got it, yep. I'm like, which one is more likely to be, to have, you can hit the button and flood the whole thing with it on a Jem'Hadar ship? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Is there a button on the bridge that floods everything with the gas?
I mean, I feel like it happens a lot in like next gen and stuff too, where it's just like, use that gas that knocks everybody out. There does seem to just be some buttons that you can hit and do that.
Yeah, who knows? So either everybody else is knocked out or they're all dead. One of those. And then, they're on their way home. Kira goes and sits with the sick and suffering Odo, who asks if she's angry with him for hiding his condition. And she's like, no, I knew the whole time. But don't worry. Julian will find a cure. But Odo is like, don't even with that. Just stay here with me. And then she sits quietly with Odo, both of them knowing Julian is never going to find that cure. The end.
When does he ever cure stuff? So there is a deleted scene from the episode that is at the end, cut for time.
Sure.
Ezri and Worf are hanging out again, and Ezri's like, what was it like to stand at the pinnacle of the Empire for a moment? And Worf says he remembers wishing that his father had been there to see it. And Ezri goes, I think he knows. And so does Jadzia. And then, like, raises a toast to Worf's brief reign as Chancellor.
His, like, literally 15-second reign as Chancellor.
Yeah. And Michael Dorn later commented that, like, he really liked this scene and felt that it was riveting. And so I guess he was sad that it got taken out.
Oh. Sounds like a nice scene. But it sounds like they had to cut a lot of stuff from this episode.
Yeah, maybe. That is all the notes.
So we can jump right into reviews then. Yep. What do you think of Tacking into the Wind?
Okay, so yeah, we've already established the title's dumb. But it once again feels like we're moving out of setup and into things happening. And there's some major things happening in this episode. We're making progress on the Breen weapon front. We're kind of sort of making progress on the finding a cure for Odo front. Although we're at least ramping up the tension on that. It's like, oh no, Odo's super sick now. Which it does feel a little ham-fisted the way that we did that, where it's like, yeah, he's just super sick all of a sudden. But overall, I like it. I think that we are doing there's big moves being made and being done fairly well. Like the stories are playing out well here, I think. So I'm going to give it a solid commander.
All right. Yeah, I'm a little conflicted. There are some things in this episode that make me want to give it a captain. Like, okay. Gowron and Gull Steve dying.
Yes, big.
Pretty great. I think the way they killed Gowron felt slightly rushed, or not really rushed, but it felt kind of like smaller.
Yeah.
Because they were in that little room and there were just like a few Klingons kind of over in the corner watching. And the fight was pretty fast. It was like, okay, well, Gowron's dead now.
Sucks to be him.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know that they ever, before these couple of episodes, established that Gowron being quite that stupid and petty that he would, like, risk losing the Empire just to, like, screw over Martok.
Uh-huh.
So that feels a little bit strange to me.
Clearly, he's lost his marbles a little bit. Yeah, I guess him being that incredibly stupid also kind of makes him feel a little bit less menacing.
Yeah.
And the fact that he just has no allies, like Sisko's not on his side, Worf's not on his side. It really seems like none of the Klingons are probably on his side either.
Yeah, everyone recognizes how dumb this is. So, yeah.
Everybody's just kind of like waiting. It's like, oh man, I hope Martok challenges that guy soon, because
yep.
Like, they are ready. They are ready for anybody but Gowron to be calling the shots. So let's see what else is in the episode. The whole thing with I guess Damar's character arc. I'm quickly talking my way out of a captain. Like, Damar's like family that we didn't know existed dying suddenly, and then him not really being that vexed by it, but kind of taking it as a moral lesson about, you know, good people, what makes a good ruler or not, was good in principle, but it also kind of felt a little clumsily done. But I do like seeing Damar take this this arc or whatever. So
yeah, in some ways it definitely feels like there's a bit of like, we know we have to get from point A to point B, so just in this episode it happens.
Right. Yeah, I think this episode is just in some ways being like, okay, we're in the end game now.
Yeah.
Damar is 100% good. Gowron is gone, so that problem that we introduced a few episodes is taken care of. We are at the home stretch. Yeah, and then Julian and O'Brien. I don't know if we had to have an entire episode with them coming up with essentially the same plan they had last episode, but I will also give it a Commander. Pretty good. Some really great stuff, but also some like execution that feels not 100% perfect.
Yeah.
So I think Commander sounds about right. It was definitely a very enjoyable episode for sure. We're getting there. We're getting to the last episode.
Yep,
so.
very close.
So yeah, that's our discussion of Tacking into the Wind. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of, I don't know, Apocalypse Rising. That was a good episode with Gowron. Yeah. That was a fun episode in general. Everybody got to dress up like Klingons.
I mean, there was the very obvious, like, why didn't we bring Dax on this mission? But other than that, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. But yep, you can find those wherever you're listening to this. By the time you're listening to this, maybe our review of the finale is out too. Who knows? If you want to leave us a comment, you could do that on YouTube. But my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you next week on Undeclared Bajor. And until then, just remember, the Chewbacca trick always works.
I mean, yeah.
I've never seen it fail.
It's like the Chewbacca defense episode of South Park.
That too.